This episode is brought to you by Monogram. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise.
Welcome to Design Dash, and we are mid-year. It's halfway through the year, which is crazy. And so today you have me and Melissa as we talk about what we did all quarter. So we're going to talk about the lovely guests that we had and our biggest takeaways from those guests. And then we're going to talk about really mid-year, which is just mind-blowing. I can't believe we're mid-year. And what the hell do we do now that we're halfway through 2024, which is completely arbitrary? I mean, who even cares? However, on paper, we are halfway through, and like mentally, we are halfway through. So let's talk about that. So, but I do want to kick off like looking back. I think when we're mid-year, we just did quarterly planning for Laura U Design Collective, our interior design firm. And we all get together, we spend a day off site, and we do quarterly planning. And we look back and we're like, okay, what worked really well? And then we look forward and we're like, what do we want to do by the end of the year? And so we're going to do that today. But Melissa, what do you, I guess instead of talking about guests right now, which we can talk about in a minute, what are we doing? What do you do personally and professionally to mark that halfway point and really accomplish what you want to by the end of the year?
I've been thinking about this a lot. I was actually talking to my good friend Taylor about this morning. I was driving into the studio, and it was really funny because I was actually thinking about her in that moment because she went to Texas A&M and there was a person driving in front of me who had Gig'em taillights. And I was like, I got to take a picture of this and send it to Taylor. And while I was thinking about that, she actually texted me, and it was an image of us at an Astros game, and it was 8 years ago. And I was just looking at this like, oh my gosh, like that feels like yesterday, but it also feels like a lifetime ago. And we were also in really great shape back then because we were working together and we went to the gym together every day for lunch. And we were just killing it. So of course, she and I were going back and forth in a text message, just like, oh my gosh, like we were bodying, like what happened? And
what are you talking about? You look fabulous.
I was 30 pounds lighter. I was not as stressed out. I had just one job and I had a lot of friends at work. I think that's one thing, and we can talk about this later, but I think being in a management position, and especially in a small firm, it's really hard to have friends at work because they all report to you. Totally. But that's a completely different story. Yep. But the reason why that just meant so much to me now is I was just like, you know what? And I was like, Taylor, I have 6 months until I'm 40. And I don't usually set a lot of goals. I don't really write them down. I don't vision board, but I will say in my mind, like these are certain things that I really want to accomplish. And one of the things that I'm actually going to get started on and do is I'm going to get my yoga teacher certification, just 200 hours. I really wanted it to practice. And so I'm going to go do that just personally. After I had Magnolia, I was I hate saying so good at yoga, but I was very intentional with going. I went every day. I had an excellent practice. I had a great meditation practice at home, and I've really gotten away from that. And so she and I are going to be accountability buddies now. So on a personal level, I think there are some things I just want to take care of before I'm 40 and get done. In terms of work, I think we've been thinking a lot with Design Dash and what we want to be and what we want to do. And we've been having some really good meetings on that. And then with Laura U as well. Yeah, we just got out of quarterly planning and thinking about where we want to be now until the end of the year. And I think that one of the biggest focuses there was on communication, because we set goals like this needs to be done by a certain amount of time, but communication is more nebulous and vague, and it's not like I need to communicate XYZ by tomorrow. It's not, it doesn't have that.
It's different for everyone.
Like, that message, like success is determined not by how many times you did it or some metric, but was that message actually received by the people that you're speaking to? And so I think that on the business side, that's a big focus now until the end of the year, is making sure we're communicating, we're creating community, we're working with the team a lot more to maybe not have these hard goals, but to be together a lot more and on the same page.
Yeah, I think that's really top of mind for
all of us. I think like sometimes you start a year And for me, and again, it's not because I'm super goal oriented. So you may feel differently, but I'm always just like, okay, so this goal needs to get done, and then it's done. Just whoop, don't need to think about it anymore. But it's that communication piece that doesn't necessarily have a timeline that I really want to focus on for the rest of the year.
I think these are good goals. Like yoga certification is, I didn't even know you had that on your radar. I love it. I think that's amazing. Okay, so you're setting one big personal and one like focused professional goal for the end of the year.
And I know that professional goal isn't really a big one, but I think that's why it's so important to me, is because I never
I think it is
communicating well and effectively. It's just like, oh, I said that, I'm done now. But that's not communicating, right? That's you just saying what you want to say and then checking off the box. Did the team hear me? Does the team understand? Is the team into what we're talking about? Like, is it a conversation and a dialogue?
Why do they care? Yeah. The communication thing is huge and a whole other conversation, probably. I love that you've been able to like narrow this down to 2 goals. And like you just said, I don't know if they feel loose to you because you're not putting them on a vision board and you're not writing them down, but they're just in your.
Yeah, there are things I really want. And so I'm going to I just take the steps to make them happen. We'd like to thank our good friends at Monogram Appliances. We've partnered with Monogram for over a decade with our design firm, Laura U Design Collective, and we're so happy to partner with them in producing the Design Dash podcast. Monogram sources the highest quality materials for their appliances, from commercial grade stainless steel to unscratchable sapphire glass. Monogram ensures lasting beauty and unmatchable quality for your luxury kitchen. And not only that, but they have an amazing team who we love working with, and we know you will too. So thanks, Monogram.
I think I'm an accomplishment junkie, and that's why I'm completely opposite. And I set goals and I write them down and I'm like, this is what I'm doing. Check, check, check. And it's maybe not that black and white. It's not like I do it and I check it off and it's done and that's it. I mean, for some things that are more tactical, sure. But like bigger strategic stuff. And I think mid-year, and we talked about this a little bit too, is a good time to reflect on what you've done already this year. And I think we've come a long way in a lot of different respects. With Design Dash, we're, like you said, we're still trying to figure out what it is. And I know we want, like, it is designing a life you love. That has never changed. It's how do we manifest that designing a life you love? And how do we get that to be a thing, like a physical thing that is able to be accomplished? So I feel like we're making progress there. And no, that's not a box we can check off yet, but I think we've come a long way this year. And then with Laura U, oh man, honestly, y'all, we've had a really rough last year. So I think just like a lot of different factors, but I feel like we've recalibrated. I feel really good hitting mid-year, which is saying a lot considering where we started in January. I wasn't feeling great personally or professionally, I think. I don't know. My mind just wasn't in it. But I have made some changes because I recognize that. And I was like, all right, this status quo is not going to quo anymore. Like, I've got to fix this.
What are you doing to get yourself out of that funk?
So many things. Really, I think it's a mental game. So personally, I've gotten introspective and started a ketamine therapy, which we've talked about is a little like on trend right now, but for me, it's working. And I think I'm able to just like stop and give myself some time. If nothing else, I'm giving myself time back and I'm focusing on what I want instead of just go, which is what we do, right? Like I have 12-year-old twins and a couple businesses and not a thriving personal life, maybe because of that. But I'd like one. So anyway, just taking that time just to acknowledge, sit with it. I'm not good at sitting with anything, but I've done that. I've done that. And so I think that it is like bearing fruit now. I also started working with a coach again, which I hadn't been doing. Yeah. So I'm working with Lois, who you know, Lois Barth, who is wonderful. And that has been really good because she always meets me where I am. And she's not like, we're meeting for 30 minutes every 2 weeks and check, 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 check. So again, checking that box. She doesn't do that. She's very much like, yeah, let's have a touch point and then we'll meet again for an hour or whatever. So I think it's a combination of like the ketamine therapy, the life coaching, and just like really focusing on those things. So I've looked back, we've come a long way. So moving forward, I am a goal setter. And you are too. I think you just set your goals different in a different manner, but
Yeah,
right. I
I
don't
was
know.
agree.
I mean,
I
you're
don't describe
yoga.
myself that way. It's just like I want to do this and I'm going to do it. But I've never just like sat down with a sheet of paper and like before the end of the year I want to do X, Y, Z.
I don't know that I do. I mean, I do that for sure at the beginning of the year. Every year, I write that stuff down. I'm not doing it right now, though. I kind of just know in my mind where I want to be by the end of the year. And honestly, I've not like really set it in stone yet. So I will. And so I'm going to carve out like a half a day, especially because we're going, it's summer, so it's quieter and it's slower. So I will carve out a half a day and really get serious about looking at the end of the year and where I want to be because we have 6 months to manifest
Right.
whatever the hell we want. And I'm a big believer in writing it down and it will happen because that has worked for me in the past. So I've been rewarded by doing that. And so now I'm going to keep doing it. So stay tuned because I'm going to be writing my stuff down. But I think this is a good time too to look back, like while we're thinking about our goals, looking back at who we interviewed. Let's
Yeah.
segue. And so we had, I think, 4 really good interviews this
Yeah, I
past
have
quarter.
to look at it. Yeah, I think you're right because we did a couple on our own.
Yeah, so we did, who we talked to first? Carrie Colbert, who is the founder of Curate Capital. So if you didn't listen to the episode, go back and check it out. Carrie is a wealth of knowledge. And so she has her own fund. She's a venture capitalist and she invests in women, mostly consumer packaged goods, really interesting things, fashion even, and in the past, like a tech platform. So she's not specifically tech like most venture capitalists. So did you have some aha moments with Carrie?
I love her approach to it. Is this very empowered women approach. I think that she brought to the table a lot of facts that I didn't realize were true about how many new businesses are being started by women. It was a huge percentage, yet a very small percentage of those women are actually getting the funding that they need for their business. And then trying to dive into why is that? Is it just this stereotypical female desire to not be so pushy about it, or is it more of a systemic sort of thing where they're just not receiving it? And I don't know if it's been studied enough for us to really get there. But I think that what really came about that for me is that despite the reasoning for it, Carrie was so optimistic and such a galvanizer to get people behind, like, hey, these are the statistics as they are. If you really want to help women, they're out there, they're awesome, and you can. And she just, also just pivoting from what she was doing before to now. We've talked to some people who have really done some major pivots recently too, and I just think that's so admirable. That's so awesome.
Yeah, going from like oil and gas engineering to being an influencer to being a venture capitalist.
Yeah,
that's
that is
huge.
like it's any stage. No way you can predict what she was about to do next.
But I think what's interesting though is that she is very much that connector. You said that galvanizer and like a cheerleader. So she's in the perfect place for her, what she loves to do. Like she's very much that connector. And so I had met her when I was working with her doing her own home, and she was an influencer.
You've known her for years.
And this is 15 years, maybe maybe 10. I'm not sure, but it was right when like influencers really started to influence. And so Carrie was at the cutting edge of that. And so I think that's also key, is that she dreams really big. And she talked about that, like, don't limit yourself. And so I think that really sparked a whole conversation for us, like really thinking big about what we can do. Cause that's hard. It's easy to say like, think big. That's really hard. Like once you sit down and then at least for me, I realize my limitations. I'm like, oh wait, is that enough? Like, I don't know. So anyway, I think she pushes and she's a galvanizer. I love that. And she also, I think what's big for her is talking about acknowledging what you've done. And that was hard for her. She said that she had somebody in her circle come to her and say, Carrie, you're your harshest critic. Look back at what you've accomplished and talk about it. And like, even she, as a cheerleader for everyone else, has a really hard time looking back and appreciating what she's done for herself. So I think that was a big aha for me. Like, oh yeah, like we're our worst critics. It's really hard to look back and think about that.
Yeah. I mean, that was a really great podcast. I learned a lot from her, and never having spoken to her directly, like just seeing the presence that she's built online, she was even more impressive in person.
She's brilliant. Yeah, for sure. And just like a really kind person. And also, we can relate to, she has 2 kids, like young kids, and just like balancing. We don't use the word balance here, but finding that rhythm. And then we talked to Lauren Levicki, who is the director of Dress for Success Houston, which is a wonderful nonprofit that I've been involved in for a long time, and you too, through Laura U Design Collective. And so I think her conversation was more centered around, like in my mind, my takeaway was legacy, because her mother started the chapter for Dress for Success Houston. And so she stepped in to continue her mother's legacy, and working with family, and, the dynamic there is tough.
Yeah. I mean, that work is hard. Nonprofit is hard work.
It is hard work. And I think the biggest aha for me from her was, she said, like, don't rush, like be at ease. And I know that sounds really like that's easy to say, but I think like for her, being like, nonprofit is so tough and fundraising is hard. So I think like that she has that message for her and her team, and home too, like her home life balance and her home goals. That was really cool. Like saying like her goal is that she is home tucking her kids in.
Yeah, I can really appreciate that, because I feel the same way. But then you also feel like, gosh, am I letting somebody down if I have to go to this work event, and so I'm going to miss bedtime, and there's just never a right answer. So one of the things I can work through is, it's not the situation itself, right? It's your reaction and your attitude around that situation. And she just created those, like, these are the things that she really wanted. And so there's nothing is going to interfere with those non-negotiables, right? That she really needs to design that life that she loves to live. So I love that.
Yeah, she designed her rule set, and it's bedtime. That's her non-negotiable. I like that. I mean, my kids are now 12, so I'm like, good night, guys, love you. And they're like, yeah, peace out, bye. But right. But anyway, okay. And then you're kind of fangirling over Jen White. So tell us all about Jen.
I've been following her, for a couple of years now on TikTok. So during the pandemic, when everybody was looking to make a connection with other people, and really the reason why I started following her is, she came up on my For You page, but also it's like, how are people in Chicago dealing with lockdown? Because I used to live there, but now living in Texas, like, it was like nothing really changed here. And I know in Chicago, that was a very different story. And so to see how she was adapting and just like following along and kind of living vicariously through her, where she was also creating this life and this schedule where I felt like she was really fully in charge. And I think that there's this illusion of freedom sometimes that we have with ourselves, but I felt like she was truly free. Like, she was waking up in the morning, she's like, well, maybe I'll go to Pilates today, or maybe I'll go to work and I'll go later. And I just liked the ability that she was able to choose, because I think sometimes when I'm feeling stuck, it's because I'm like, I have to do this, or I should do this, I should with myself. And she wasn't shoulding. And that was great. And so to meet her in person, face to face on the podcast, like, she was more effervescent than she was that you see online. And I think just to see this authentic, genuine person, again, doing not necessarily a pivot, but doing an add-on, a major add-on to her life. Like, she already has a thriving sales enablement career. And I know that she has a great personal life, or at least it looks that way online. And to go into content creation fully immerse yourself into that is crazy.
She's like the best example of a successful side hustle.
Oh, for sure.
And it's like not even a side hustle. It's like a full-time hustle here and a full-time hustle there, and she's really making it work. And you introduced me to her. I hadn't heard of her before, and I really enjoy her. I think she was really vulnerable and open, and I really appreciated when we talked about how she considers creating content. Like, you asked her, like, is everything fair game? Like, how are you thinking about this? And I think that really made us to think about, okay, how do we want to be in front of our audience and social media? Like, how do we structure that? Because her life is very open.
And I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I could do I don't know if I could do that. So I've tried, like, I'll go to a nice restaurant, I'm like, ooh, this could be content. And then I feel so taken outside of the experience that I just stop. But she does consider it from the point of, well, why is she doing this? Like, what is she trying to do? Like, she has goals with her content creation. So I think that was a great podcast. If you're ever considering getting into content creation from a lifestyle perspective and documenting your life, Jen White is a great person to follow on TikTok and Instagram.
Check her out. It's me, Jen White is her handle. She's awesome. And then we rounded it out with Avery Thatcher, who was really interesting because, like I was talking about at the beginning of the year, I was like, my head just wasn't right. And she is an expert in burnout. And I feel like I was there, like 100% in burnout. I'm out of it, or coming out of it now, but I'm making an effort to do that. So I think that speaking with her was really timely. I don't know for you, but for me it was. And just hearing her say, my big takeaway was her saying, it's small, like it can be small strategies. It doesn't have to be this huge move. Like, that's not
a big
necessary.
problem with that. I am a big all or nothing thinker, which I'm working through.
I am too, but it doesn't have to be.
It's so hard. I think that's one of the hardest things. I mean, even right now in therapy, my therapist is like, just do these tiny little things, just have a moment of mindfulness. It's just 30 seconds. But for me, I'm just like, well, if I don't have an hour of yoga and meditation, then it's not good enough.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have that kind of cognitive distortion of it's all or nothing, unfortunately. And so those were big aha moments for me with her, because what was cool about her, she dealt with her own burnout. And I was like, hey, I can turn this into something. Like, I can make this my superpower a little bit.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, I feel like she gave me some permission there to not be that all or nothing. And just hearing it too, because she was in the medical field before, which is like such a high stress job. And just to see that she came out of that after experiencing severe burnout, experiencing that on her own. I don't know, gave me hope. Like, okay, I can make these small little shifts.
Yeah, because have you ever had, you were feeling burnt out earlier this year. Have you felt that burnt out before?
No, honestly, no, I haven't. I think it's the fallout after COVID. And I think it was just a little lag for me because we were on like pedal to the metal during COVID with our design business. We were so busy. And I moved in that time too, which is a huge change. We moved from Texas to Colorado, and it was just so much that I just burned myself out. I was just heads down, go, go, go. And then I had a full year of just like, holy shit, I cannot do this anymore. And I just sat down. But I don't even know how else to explain it. Like, I just checked out, and I was doing like bare minimum, which we now are feeling the repercussions of in our design business. Cause I was just like, I can't, I'm done. But now I've recognized it, and I'm on the other side of it, and I've made some changes. I am not pedal to the metal anymore. I don't want to be, and we're not doing that. It's hard.
Yeah. So do you think it's slowing down? Slowing down that's your incremental change?
Yeah. And I think just, slowing down, but giving myself, like, I used to compact everything I did into a short amount of time. And you know how I am. I'm like, okay, well, when are we going to get that done? What's the deadline on that? Can it be tomorrow? I'm very much like, I push like that, and I push myself like that. Now I'm giving myself more space. And that came from working with Lois too. She's like, and she's very like, I am pragmatic. And Lois knows that about me, but she's like, okay, we're going to get like a little woo woo here. And she's just like, okay, close your eyes. And we do some visualization work. And she's like, okay, imagine giving yourself space, because everything just felt like it was just coming down on me. Like I was just very much claustrophobic. And so just envisioning like space around things now really just gives me like, I can breathe. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but I think it's just like giving space to things I
do
want to
visualization
accomplish.
exercises too, and it seems really silly in the moment, right? But the freeing of it, like I do it's the blue light illumination exercise that I do. And
Ooh,
so
I
my
don't know
therapist will
that.
say, feel a place, like feel where you're tense or where you're holding some tension, or you're holding something, and give it a color. And sometimes it's orange or
Oh,
sometimes it's red, but it's always like this very passionate, fiery sort of situation. And then she'll say, so imagine that there's a beam of light shooting down from you through your head, and it's going to consume and color all of those other pieces. Now, what color is that? And it's usually a calming white or like a robin's egg blue or something like that.
a
And I do it for
pastel
a
of some
very short
sort.
amount of time, but it works. And I think it just goes, I mean, it all goes back to mindfulness, right? Like taking the time to be present
Mhm.
in the current moment. Because you're talking about compacting so many things. And I think that's what we were doing. Like we had so many things on our plate, multitasking.
Yes.
And I'm so against multitasking now. Like I and have been, I think, all year.
I
I
think
think
I
it's a
am
falsehood.
too.
Multitasking is a myth. You're just half-assing multiple things at once. You're not you're not doing anything very
Yeah.
well. I mean, I
Like so, and nothing
right.
has
Yeah,
your
it
focus.
has
Yeah.
your presence of mind, and that's something that I've also been working on a lot this year, is because that go, like I mean, you eventually can fall off a
God, it's
cliff,
crushing.
right? Like
And I did. I totally did. So talking to Avery was, I think, just like validating too. Like this happens. It happens to other people. You've been there
sure, but
too,
I mean, like I've just
I
completely
think.
like left. Like if, and I think that's why I was asking you, have you ever felt this way before with burnout? Because for me, again, all or nothing
No,
thinker, I'm like, oh, all these things are burning
no.
me out. I'm just going to quit all of them and do something else, which is what I've done in the past.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I really just like shut down and operated on like 10%
Yeah,
for a
that's all
long
you have to
time.
give.
That's what I had. And I think probably looking back, people around me would be like, yeah, I can see that. I feel like I'm coming out of it. So I'm like, just to bring this heavy ass conversation full circle, I am looking forward to the last 6 months of this year. We had some fabulous guests in Q2, and we have some really cool stuff coming up. Like, yeah, I'm excited,
I am too.
but I'm not going to burn myself
So
out
I'm gonna
over
embrace
it.
some clarity too, because it's just naturally a slower time. And so it's
Yeah.
just easier to, again, give yourself that space and that grace of, I'm just going to take as much time as it needs me to get to where I want to be. And I'm not going to put that pressure on myself.
Like I said, I'm just going to like give myself some time, but I'm like so inspired with your getting your yoga certification. I'm like, I need to do
I
something
need to do
cool. What can
something
I
cool. It's my
do?
last year of my 30s. So I was like, I got to do something cool,
I
just like
love
cap it
that.
off. Because I felt my 30s were tough. It was a lot of like work, establishing yourself, working. And I think that's why I always kind of feel that imposter syndrome, is because I mean, I'm more of a spontaneous like person by nature, maybe a little bit more reckless. And so to
Oh,
be really organized to get the things that I want to do is so damn hard.
oh well, you make
Well,
it
that's
look
because I'm
easy.
dying inside.
So,
Now I'm really trying to shift that and get back to the things that like really gave me joy as a younger person before all the responsibility and the goals and all that stuff. They can,
what you mean, like kids and a career
yeah,
and
and I was a lot more fun.
having to maintain a
Yes,
pool?
that too. I mean, my husband does that, thank God, or I'd be dealing with some other things right now if I had to take that.
Well, I'm going to do some goal setting. I'm going to give myself 3 things that I want to do by the end of the year. I'm going to write them down, and I'm going to tell you what they are so you can
Yeah,
hold me
yeah.
accountable. But I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to do it by, because I'm not going to put a damn deadline on it, but it'll be in the next few weeks. How about
There
just
you
be loose
go.
about it?
I'm so much better about that.
Yeah, I don't feel pressure, but I will let you know, hey, my goals are these.
Let's do it.
If I don't accomplish them, please don't give me a
Nope.
hard time.
No, I won't. I think that's it. It's been a great first half of the year. Maybe a little bit trying, but we're really rebounding for the rest of it.
We've got this.
So I think we're both in a more positive place.
Yeah. I'm not worried. We've got this. It's going to be a good end of the year.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast, coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.